My brother was already measuring the living room when I walked in. His tape measure stretched across the hardwood floor, wall to wall, like he was calculating something he'd already decided. He didn't look up. "I'm thinking this wall comes out," he said. "Open concept." I was still holding the envelope from Dad's attorney. This is the kind of family revenge story you think you'll never be in. My family wasn't like that. We were close. We trusted each other. That's what I thought too. Dad had been gone 3 weeks, and somehow I was standing in the middle of it anyway. "Mark," I said, "what are you doing?" He finally glanced at me, annoyed, like I'd interrupted something obvious. "Planning," he said. "It's my house now. The will gives it to me." I didn't respond, because the envelope in my hand was the will, and I hadn't opened it yet. Before Dad died, things between Mark and me were normal. Not close, but normal. I lived about 40 minutes away. I worked in accounting. Dad used to joke that I was the only person in the family who actually read documents before signing them. Mark stayed closer. He fixed things around the house, mowed the lawn, replaced a few light fixtures. Somewhere along the way, he started acting like the house was already his. Dad never corrected him directly, at least not in front of me. The house was worth around $620,000. 3 bedrooms, a deep backyard, paid off for years. The kind of place families hold on to. After the funeral, Mark started spending more time there. At first I assumed he was grieving. Then he started talking about renovations. New kitchen, walls removed, an expanded living room. He talked like someone who already owned it. I told myself I might be overreacting. 2 days after that conversation, I sat down at my kitchen table and opened the envelope. I read the will slowly. Then I read it again. Then I checked the date. Updated 8 months before Dad died. My hand started shaking because the will didn't say what Mark thought it said. Not even close. But something else caught my attention first. The house wasn't listed. I scanned the document again. Dad's truck went to Mark. His tools went to Mark. A small retirement account also to Mark. The remaining assets split between us. But the house wasn't part of the estate. I stopped reading. Then I opened the county property records website. I'd used it before when helping Dad organize tax documents. I typed in the address. The record loaded. Owner, Robert Ellison. Then a second line appeared beneath it. A second name. Mine. Emily Ellison. Added 18 months earlier. I leaned back and stared at the screen. I told myself there had to be another explanation. Dad might have added me temporarily. For medical reasons, for paperwork. I didn't want to assume anything. So I opened the filing cabinet beside my desk. Every document Dad had ever mailed me was still there, labeled, dated, organized. I found the folder marked Dad, Property Documents. Inside was a deed transfer form he'd mailed 1.5 years earlier. I remembered signing something back then. Dad had said he was simplifying paperwork. At the time, I barely looked at it. Now I read every line. Joint tenancy with right of survivorship. I read it again. Then I checked the county record again. Then I refreshed the page. Because that wording meant something very specific. The house wouldn't pass through the will. It transferred automatically. Meanwhile, Mark kept acting like he owned the place. He replaced the garage lock. He stacked lumber along the side yard. One afternoon, he told a contractor they could start renovations next month. The contractor's card was sitting on the kitchen counter when I stopped by. Next to it was a renovation sketch. Walls removed, kitchen expanded. Estimated cost, $140,000. Mark walked in while I was looking at it. "You should have called," he said. "I just wanted to see the place," I replied. He shrugged. "Well, it won't look like this much longer." I nodded, but my attention stayed on the folder in my hand. That night I opened the deed again. Then I opened the county record. Then I checked the timestamp on the filing. I didn't sleep much. Around 2 a.m, a memory surfaced. A conversation at this same kitchen table, maybe 18 months ago. Dad slid a document toward me. "Just sign here," he said. "What is it?" I asked. "Property paperwork," he said. I signed it without reading the details. Now the memory felt different, clearer. Dad hadn't been simplifying paperwork. He had been transferring the house. The next morning, I called the county clerk. I asked 3 questions. They answered all 3 the same way. The house transferred automatically to the surviving owner. No probate, no estate involvement. When the call ended, I sat there quietly because that meant something else entirely. Mark couldn't sell it. He couldn't renovate it. He didn't even technically have the right to replace the locks. I didn't confront Mark. Instead, I called the attorney who had handled Dad's will. I emailed her the deed and the county record. She replied the next morning. Short email, clear wording. The property legally belonged to me. She suggested filing one additional document, an ownership confirmation, just to make the record unambiguous. I signed it that afternoon. 2 days later, Mark called. His voice sounded irritated. "Why did the contractor say he needs your approval?" I kept my voice calm. "What do you mean?" "He said the property record lists you." "It does." Silence. Long silence. "What are you talking about?" he asked. I explained slowly. Dad had added me to the deed 18 months ago. When he passed, ownership transferred automatically. "You're kidding," Mark said. "I'm not." The next few days were quiet. The lumber disappeared from the yard. The contractor stopped calling. Mark asked for a copy of the deed. I emailed it. Then he asked for the county record. I sent that too. No arguments, no lectures, just documents. A week later, we met at the house. Mark walked through the rooms slowly, like he was seeing them differently. He ran his hand along the hardwood floor Dad had installed, the same floor he'd been measuring. "I thought Dad meant for me to have it," he said. I didn't respond. Instead, I placed the printed deed on the kitchen table. He read it. Then he read it again. Exactly the way I had. After that, we talked about the rest of the estate, the truck, the retirement account, the tools in the garage. Those were his, exactly like the will said. But the house wasn't part of that conversation, because legally it never had been. We listed it a few months later. Neither of us wanted to buy the other out, and carrying the property together wasn't something either of us could see working. The sale closed quietly. The proceeds were split according to what the deed required. I drove past once, about a month after closing. New family. A child's bike on the front porch. The locks had been changed again. Dad had spent years in that house. He knew exactly what it was worth, not just financially. He also knew his children. He had done this quietly, 18 months before he died, at the same kitchen table where I signed a document I didn't read. He knew I'd find it eventually. He knew Mark wouldn't look. The deed hadn't changed. It had just finally been read. I used to think situations like this were rare. Then I started hearing what happened in other families. The assumption that paperwork is just a formality, that the house will land where it's supposed to, that intentions are enough. It shows up everywhere. It cost Mark everything he thought he had, and my father made sure the answer was already on file.